Welcome, listeners. This is another episode of Thoughtful Thursdays with Adan, the delivery man from the NeviCast. And with me, I have Hobbs, aka Hans, as a guest. And we're going to talk about Parasyte the Maxim. And I am choosing up animes that have been out for a while, so people who are interested in what we're saying can look back, compare, disagree, agree, maybe have different opinions or add something else. So I will try and make more of a psychological analysis, and Hans will try to do comparative character. What is it again?
Well, I tend to focus more on. Thank you, Kinsey. I tend to focus more on the characterizations and the plot development. With naturally, there is a heavy psychological undertone running through this series, so I think we'll both have plenty to add to this discussion.
So what I was thinking is that we would complement each other's point of view.
Very well said. Oh, wrong compliment, sorry.
Yeah, right. And I would like to start by saying that Parasyte the Maxim is the tale of the hero, again. Yeah. What do you think?
I would actually disagree with that. It being, at least a traditional hero's journey. Well, no, even then you could compare it to the classical hero's journey.
Yeah.
Because he is normal. He doesn't really want anything greater. The secret world that he's revealed to once. This is going to be spoilerific, people. So hard hats on. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's a pretty good time. You won't be sorry. Well, you might. But, that's neither here nor there. But it does have the secret world that our hero is introduced to, and it doesn't have the classic mentor, except the parasite that does envelope his right hand, telling him about how the parasites have come and that it is this secret world mentioned. I would say that it is more plot-driven than character-driven, because it does, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, it is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Go ahead.
Yes, and I would just add that because it's plot-driven, it's not about the individual character, it's about themes and about ideas more than individual characters or individual stories.
Which is an interesting point, because you could take this, the parasites invading, which I don't know if you guys might know if they explain it in the manga or what, but no one knows where these parasites came from. They just kind of happened one day. So really, Parasyte the Maximum could focus on any character, and it would change the flavor of the story, but it would still retain that simple thing of the parasites made landfall and now they are infecting and infiltrating our society.
Speaking of infection, the how I intend to bring it more into the psychological realm is that in analytical psychology there's consciousness and then the unconscious. And so in the story of this parasite, you see the parasite later tells our protagonist that what has happened between himself as a parasite and our protagonist as human is that they have merged into one organism. And the parasite later tells him that is relatively rare because the parasite eventually takes over, and that's why it's a parasite, obviously. So this is important because in analytical psychology, the reason how they explain insanity is that the unconscious takes over. this world of the unconscious, the underworld, takes over the human, and that's how people become schizophrenic or paranoid, delusional, and that kind of stuff. So I think that's another coincidence or like parallel to the theme of the hero, that this guy is different, is unique from all of the other characters, right?
And going back to the fact that I believe it's more of a plot-driven scenario, it's just a quirk of fate that saves him. And yes, he does have the wherewithal to tie off his arm to prevent Migi from taking over his brain and therefore making him just like everyone else. But again, he just happened to wake up. It's coincidence.
Right.
Which generally people take points off for, but it works in the series, because if you had the main character who became a slave to these parasites, then it wouldn't be interesting, because you wouldn't have that human take on what's happening.
And there's this, again, the challenge between the norms, and again, it's themes, because we're not talking about individuals, and it's very easy, to me, I think, it's very easy to forget about the names, because they're not important throughout the story. It's like they take a back seat, because what's important is the challenge of the conformity versus being original and coming into manhood, because not coincidentally this guy is 17, 18?
Roundabout. He's still in high school. I guess he's a senior, so we'll say he's about 17.
Yeah. So he's coming into manhood. He's trying to figure himself out. He's a dork. Like, he's not very impressive.
He is kind of a wallflower, for lack of a better term. And that actually, not only the outrageous fortune that he suffers or enjoys, depending on your view, by virtue of Migi running across him and him actually changing that normally parasitic relationship to actually one of symbiosis, which he keeps Migi alive, and Migi routinely keeps him alive. If for no other reason than he's essentially been dropped into a metaphorical jungle with these parasites emerging and trying to get their hooks into human society.
And adding to the fact that they keep each other alive, the parasite is very clear in stating that he has no emotional attachment to our protagonist, because I would argue, like, again, it's this idea of the conscious and the unconscious, where the unconscious, being truly unconscious, does not have an opinion whether he wants the protagonist to live or die.
That is interesting, and even then you could take emotions as a biochemical reward for doing things that will benefit us. Because, you hang out with certain people because you have a good time around them. That's a release of endorphins. That makes you feel good. You repair your host's heart because he's just been, impaled through it, because you want to keep living. And that could be seen on certain levels as attachment, even though he's rather tsundere about it. It's like, yeah, I don't care about you. I'm just trying to save my own ass.
And I think it's also important to mention that it's the heart that is impaled. It's not the chest, it's not the brain, it's not the sexual organs, it's the heart. And again, it's this playing with the ideas of emotions.
True, and it does make a lot of sense as far as the symbolism goes, because generally the heart has been misused as the center of a person, almost their soul. And it's also the muscle that keeps them kicking. So naturally, the rather cold analytical parasites would go for that first, because they want to stop their target. They don't want to, torture them. They don't have malice when they attack something. It's just survival to them.
Exactly. And I think going along with this idea of survival and the themes, we were talking before, we were throwing out ideas at each other, and Hans made a very good point about the mentor figure. Could you talk about that?
Yes. In the classic hero's journey, a mentor generally appears. In the case of Star Wars, you have Obi-Wan, who tells Luke about the Force and the rebellion and all that. And generally, there is this character, but Parasyte doesn't have one in the strictest sense. I mean, yes, there is Migi, who explains the parasites, what they are and what they're trying to do, and kind of gets him ready for his journey, but it's not exactly the classic mentor relationship. He's not, ancillary to it. He's not just, he doesn't show up to basically exposit all over the main character's face and then he's gone. No, he's very much a part of it.
It's almost like they're both going in a journey, not knowing what's going to happen. And I think that's a very purposeful critique at our society nowadays. I don't know what you think about that.
Please expand on that, because you've made a very good point with they're both going on the journey, and that really skews the mentor-trainee dynamic, because, they both don't really know what their end game is. I mean, hell, I think Migi's end game is just survive as long as he can, which is kind of a bare bones philosophy. And I think Izumi's so, twisted up by everything that's happened to him. I don't know if he knows his head from his ass,
yes.
From a philosophical standpoint at this point. So usually the mentor shows up to guide them to the end of their destination, but I am not sure if there's actually a destination for this. It's just, like we were going back to saying, the very plot-driven. It's about, the parasites showing up. After that, they rode happily off into the sunset?
Yeah, exactly. Because the human character is trying to be human, but he doesn't know what human really is until he's shown what human is not. So he doesn't know. He's trying to figure it out. And then the parasite knows what a parasite is. Actually, no, he does not. He doesn't know what a parasite is until he's compared to humans. And that's why he's like, well, we all eat meat. I don't know what the big deal is about eating meat. You eat cows, so what is so horrifying about eating humans?
But then you don't pretend to be a cow.
Exactly.
But it's probably shouldn't refer to characters in the anime in a discussion with someone. But you get what I mean. I'm not sure if Izumi actually by the way, the main character's name is Izumi for future reference.
Okay.
And I will remind you as many times as I need to.
All right.
But he doesn't bring that up that I know of. And yeah, it's the vast difference, because you don't eat a cow and then pretend to be a cow in the herd, whereas the parasites show up, they take this person's identity by devouring their brain, and then they just start, nomming on their loved ones.
Yes, and with the what I mean, or what I'm thinking that the critique is, or the criticism towards society, them not knowing where they're going. They're figuring out together where they're going, if anywhere. Because even towards the end, and this will be a spoiler, the parasite says, well, I collected a shitload of information. I don't know what to do with it now, so I'm going to sleep. I'm leaving you now. And the guy is like, well, okay, it was fun while it lasted, and thank you, and that's it. Because you don't even... the Izumi has sex with the girl and everything, but it's not like they bonded or they had like this really deep connection as male and female. It again, it's all up in the air. Like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. You know, like, I don't know what to do. And I think that's a very generational thing. I think that, and I am dating myself. So for the 90s generation, I think we went through that. I don't think we had mentors. I think we were just kind of figuring shit out, like with the internet. Like, so many things were happening so fast, and there was this change of morals and like norms and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable and what should be acceptable, what is out of fashion, and we don't have any mentors anymore.
Well, directionlessness has been a thing for as long as there has been direction. It's just, I think because of the ways that a lot of people were brought up, there was more direction given. And I don't know if because it is behind us and we don't know about it, they just kind of took these rose-colored glasses and said, back in my day, things were better. And I don't know how much they were full of shit. I can't say. I wasn't there. But for what I've seen, yes, directionlessness is probably just going to get worse and worse and worse. Of course, even worse than that is something I want to see. Anime, popular media, the challenge goes out. In the hero's journey, what happens when you have an incompetent mentor? Someone who, not maliciously or knowingly, but through incompetence or apathy, leads the hero astray. What happens then? Well, I think I know what my next novel will be. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that, in my opinion, what happens in that case is that the parasite takes over. The parasite takes over because there is no direction, and then it's just like a zombie or whatever. You know, like it's it's a zombie. It's a human that is just going with the motions. It doesn't have...
So a philosophical zombie.
Yeah, philosophical zombie. And I think that's what happens with the guy that goes nuts and starts killing people. Mm-hmm. That zombie. That parasite. It actually very, very physically is blinded with the chemicals and shit.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happens with that. Along with the idea of directionlessness.
Fun to say, isn't it?
Yes. Very fun. Say that 3 times. Very
directionlessness, directionlessness, directionlessness.
Nice. Cool. The mother dies.
Yes, she does.
In a very, very gory way, too. And I think that's another message of the show.
Of abandonment?
Yeah.
Or... Well, please expand on it.
Yeah, so... he has 2 parents. They're together. They're a family. But the father is only seriously hurt but doesn't die. He falls into the rocks and hits his head very hard, but he doesn't die. The mother, however, her head is chopped in half by the parasite in front of Izumi?
No, actually, she gets decapitated and taken over by a parasite right in front of her father.
Okay.
And that also leads to him, telling crazy fish stories about how his wife got decapitated, and she's standing there right now. She looks, for all intents and purposes, normal, but she's a heart-stabbing, face-eating bitch now.
Right, which, again, goes with the fairy tale theme of the stepmother, right? This evil woman who is not the mother anymore. She's the stepmother now.
And her, because when she was still herself, Izumi has a painful memory of her, sacrificing herself and getting horrible burns all over her arm to protect him. However, the second she shows up as the stepmother, it's heart-stabbing time.
Yes. And that, in psychological terms, analytical terms, would mean that because he's transitioning into manhood, his idea of the perfect mother, loving, just sublime, changes to the ugly stepmother. So his objectivity is switching. Like, he's having this hard time into seeing her mother as a flawed, just another human being, and not, either a saint or a witch.
Yeah. That would be the logical way, but the symbolism in this series is very hit you over the head. It is a rather stark, and if you've not seen it, a very gory anime, which I'm sure after this talk you're going to feel like you've seen it.
Yeah, that's right.
So what other symbols did you pick up within?
I think that another very interesting thing is the fact that the father doesn't die. Like, he sees what happens, and I think I would argue that it's the masculine side of the protagonist that is wounded. So he's trying to figure out, he's trying to see this person as a woman, as a whole woman, but he's hurt. So something happens, and he's not dead, he's just seriously wounded, and he's trying to recover, and he sounds like he's crazy, and he's trying to piece shit together. So I think that's why the father sticks around. I think that's what he represents.
And for the most part, as, a father, aside from, a base level provider, he's mostly ineffectual, which might also lend itself towards the journey towards manhood and becoming a responsible adult for Izumi, because he doesn't need his dad literally fighting his battles. He's got, supernatural help from that special world we mentioned earlier.
Right. And, like, he's super healing, super fast, like super strong. He kicks everybody's ass, like he kicks the bully's ass, and like yeah.
Although the power is not his own, it's borrowed. So that could also go into, because as an adult you do have to integrate in society, so it could be taken that, kind of a life lesson that if you try to go it on your own, you're gonna die.
Yeah. And you noticed in the show, I saw that Migi is becoming more human. He's so his powers are slowly integrating into his, and it's not so much about superhumanness anymore, it's more about maturity.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you can have the superhuman powers, but if you're not, wise about them, if you don't behave, you're just going to be a monster. Like the parasites that begin at the beginning. They are like children.
Right.
They're fully formed, and they should be, integrated with society, but they don't. They run contrary to it. They only follow their pure instincts and drives. One or two of them, like Ryuko, gets it rather quickly. But actually, we should probably touch on Ryuko again, because she's not the main character, but she is very central to not only the symbolism of it, but also the story structure and a lot of the characterizations.
So, one thing that is repeated over and over, well, not over and over, but I would say like at least 5 times throughout the entire show, is the question, you are, what's his name again?
Izumi Shinichi.
Right? And then he says, yeah, I guess so. And that's the constant question, like, who are you? Know thyself, is what Aristotle said.
Which, again, ties back into the journey to adulthood. And also, I want to call out the I thought you were someone else repetition that really runs through a couple of episodes in the series, and it works on an excellent level. At first, when Izumi and his childhood sweetheart meet each other, she says, "Oh, I thought you were someone else." And that comes into play later when the, I don't remember his name, but the kind of unfeeling parasite that Reiko sends to spy on Izumi.
Yes.
When he goes off the wall, batshit crazy, just starts murdering everything in sight. Izumi is terrified because he thinks that his childhood friend might have been killed. He sees a familiar ribbon, and he's running up there. He's panicked. He's like, oh no, I've lost my chance with this girl. And he turns her over, and it's someone else. So in kind of a very glib, macabre way, he calls back to that, and it says, I thought you were someone else. Mm-hmm. Also, when the childhood friend is questioning if he's really Izumi, she says, I thought you were someone else, when he really gives in to the influence of the parasite and acts in a not generally accepted as human way.
And going along with this idea of acceptance and maturity, the female character also represents that female figure or the female theme in the hero's journey about reaching maturity and being in touch with feelings and being comfortable with the appropriate demonstration of feelings, which is later compared to the distance of the father, that the absence of the father.
Mm-hmm. And as a counterpoint to that, there's also the other girl named Kana who doesn't make it.
Yeah, that's right.
And she is very, fairy tale princess, very young girlish in her desires and the way she views the world, and she thinks that it's magic that's bringing them together when it actually brings her demise, which is kind of sad. Yeah,
and that is also a very, very real, very crude, I think, but elegantly crude way of pointing out that naivety will not take you very far.
And would you venture so far as to say that it was simplistic?
The way she felt? Or
well, no, what her eventual fate. It had a certain poetry and motion to it that it didn't need to be any more complex than that.
Yeah. And I think that is that could be paralleled to the politician guy, mm-hmm. who knows who the parasites are, but he goes along with it because he has this hatred against humanity, and we see this naivety in seeing things either black or white, mm-hmm. where things are so much more complicated. And if you think about it, fanaticism like National Socialism or communism is a very simplistic way, very childlike, very immature, very, again, naive way of looking at things. Like, oh, if only things would be like this, like everything would be just work out.
Well, that would be totalitarianism. If only everyone would do exactly as I say, exactly when I say it, and maybe give a little bit of a curtsy before doing so, things would be awesome.
Yeah.
But with...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, with communism, it's a little more mature because on paper, it works brilliantly. Those who have give, those who need receive. Mm-hmm. But the problem comes in when you add the human element, because you have ego and you have laziness, and it doesn't quite work, which is unfortunate.
Right. And you see this idea in tyranny of all sorts, the idea of the father figure.
Yeah.
Which I mean, if I have a father, then that means I'm a child, right? And mm-hmm. again, I'm not mature.
And if you're not mature, then you need someone to watch over you. So no going out after 9 p.m.
That's right.
No edged weapons. Sorry, just quoting a few of the greatest hits of dictator dickishness.
That's right. Exactly.
But we actually said we were going to talk about Reiko, but then we got off on this tangent. So let's go back to Reiko.
Yeah.
Do you believe she's a sympathetic character?
Man, that's a good question. I think there's a point where you think she can be, and then she's not. Because the way I saw it is that when you think, what's the Mills character name again? Izumi. Meets her in the park and says, "Oh man, I love you. Like we should fuck," and then they do. You
Reiko?
think, yeah. No. Like, oh, Reiko. I'm sorry.
The Parasyte.
The Parasyte. Okay.
No. We're not talking about the childhood friend anymore.
Okay.
Sorry if that actually might have been the cause of our tangent, and I do apologize.
Yeah. So I'm horrible with names if you haven't noticed. So yes. So I think that Reiko is a character that is the beginning of the understanding of the feminine aspect. So she gets so far, and she even has a baby, and then she goes that's crazy, you know.
Well, actually, no, she keeps her shit together. I would say that she is a sympathetic character because originally she just got herself knocked up so she could, it was an experience to her. It was an experiment, and she was going to experiment on the child. Mm-hmm. But when she sacrifices herself for that child, she tells Izumi, I couldn't bring myself to do anything to it, so please take him.
And I think it's the beginning because we're talking about themes, right? Mm-hmm. So the character goes only so far because it's as though this character is showing what the beginning of having mature feelings of respecting the feminine would be like. So she has a baby and then she dies. She doesn't go on.
Well, she does a few other things. Like, I would say, is the first steps towards actual coexistence. Like, she's the one who reveals that parasites don't need to eat humans. Mm-hmm. They can eat human food and subsist exactly that way. I think they take her out because, they kind of painted themselves into a corner. And for a long time, she had been the villain. And, of course, her sacrificing herself is kind of an act of redemption to me. It's like, I'm in this inescapable situation. I put myself here. I'm going to maturely take my lumps. Please take this innocent child.
Yes. So, coexistence is actually a very good word because in analytical psychology, I can see it as a male that is trying to figure shit out and try to coexist with the female aspect in a male psychology, and Reiko is that. Like, it's the beginning of coexistence, and again, it, like you pointed out earlier, it's very in your face, and it's an experiment. So, if I want to grow up as a person, anything that I do will become an experiment if I don't know what I'm doing. That's why it's an experiment, right? Mm-hmm. So, as a male individual that is trying to figure shit out and find coexistence with my female aspect, like I'm gonna try shit out. I'm gonna do experiments, and I think that's what Reiko is, and that's the beginning steps, and that's why it's the beginning. Like, I'm still trying to figure things out, and then what I'm doing right now had its limits, and now I have to let it go. I have to sacrifice it, or I have to kill it.
And even then, from a story standpoint, she is positioned like, if you watch the first couple of episodes, it becomes readily apparent that Reiko could well be the big villain. Because while as Izumi doesn't know anything, he's as you're saying, just experimenting, throwing shit against the wall to see what sticks. Reiko seems to have a plan, even though she really doesn't. She at least portrays herself that way. She's often shown as a cool manipulator who's pulling everyone's strings to do her bidding.
Right.
Which you could also go into villainy versus heroism, of villainy being only in it for yourself, which again is a childish desire, and heroism being doing more for the greater good.
Right. So I would agree with you. She is a sympathetic character.
And she has a lot of layers. Let's have a moment of silence for Reiko.
That's right. Let's.
Without you laughing.
Okay.
Moment has passed. So, as you were mentioning the childhood friend...
that's right.
Shit, I had something... following a life script. Because, you have people that have gone before in our society, and they say, oh, you're supposed to do this, and you're supposed to do this, but really wouldn't just blindly following that life script. She's been around Izumi forever. They hook up because she's expected to do that, and there isn't really any feeling to it. Mm-hmm. That would also kind of make her a philosophical zombie as well. Don't you agree?
Yes. I would say so, and I think that goes back to the social criticism where Japan is very structured, and there's a script, and you don't diverge from that script. You follow it, and like if you're happy, then that's cool. If you don't, oh man, that sucks.
Do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna do it anyway.
Well, even then, we've kind of got that life script thing going on all around us, where when you were growing up, you were expected to go to college, get a good job, find yourself a wife, or if you happen to dig the same sex, find yourself a husband, etc., etc. But you were expected to follow the script of, okay, you grow up, you're grown up, you find someone, and in most cases, you procreate. Yeah. You make little copies of yourself and send them out in the world to do it all over again.
And I got the feeling that the female character, the female protagonist, the childhood friend, what do you...
Childhood friend. I don't remember her name.
Let's go with
I remember every name except hers. Because there's Reiko, who's the one we were discussing, who's the Parasyte woman who changes her name to Ryuko later to make things more annoying to remember.
That's right.
There's Izumi, who's the male main character. Kana, who is the fairy tale princess, who unfortunately does not join us in the show's conclusion. And then there's the childhood friend, whose name I don't fucking remember.
So, she goes along with this guy, and to me it seemed that he looks at him and it's like, oh, he's adorable, he's like a puppy, he's cute, and then throughout the story he wants to see when he changes from having glasses, his hair covering his face, to not having glasses anymore and having his hair pulled back or like standing up, some shit like that. Slick back. She tries to put a personality in him.
Because it's what she wants, because it's expected. She has that schoolgirl crush, and you come across that, and a lot of people are lazy when it comes to love, folks. They figure, okay, you're the one, let's do this. I'm not gonna, feel you out and see if we're actually compatible, and that leads to ruin.
And I think that when they first have sex, I think the male character, Izumi, figures that out. Like, I think there is a part in the episode where he says, well, it wasn't as cool as I thought it would, and he kind of just leaves her for a while.
That's a little dickish, but yeah, I mean, he probably should have not stuck it in her, but again, that's following the life script. You're supposed to, find...
Yeah, because after that, he goes into the mountain to fight with the big monster, Goro, and yeah.
Literally a four-armed dragon.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man, ring any bells?
I have 500 HP! Oh yeah? I've got a symbiote.
Yeah, that's right. And rusty butcher knife.
And Venom shows up because, hey, I did that symbiote thing. No, sorry. Hey, we did that symbiote thing first. We're going to sue you, boy. But I'm just a Japanese schoolboy. You're right. I can't tell any of you apart.
You all look the same.
Well, how many anime have Japanese schoolboy protagonists?
Yeah. Too many. Too many.
It's like, I'm the main character. Why are you the main character? Because stuff. Yeah. And that's an entirely different conversation of, giving a crap about characters that we won't broach here. And I will stop hogging your thought on Thursday's podcast, my man.
No, it's fine. Because later on, he does mature. Because what's interesting is that you see the wise old woman, kind of, character.
Yeah.
Where she kind of tells him, hey, get your shit together. And then...
Well, also, isn't that Reiko to a degree?
I think so. Yeah.
Because before she hands off her child and makes her sacrifice, she's like, this is going to get way too interesting before it's all said and done, so get your poop in a group, boy.
That's right. So, it's again, the female aspect, or the femaleness that is telling him, like, get your act together. And then he does, and then towards the end, there is some sort of reconciliation of feelings, and he does figure out that he can love his childhood friend and can accept her for who she is, really.
Huh. And is this more of a platonic love, or is it, is he just going zombie on us for the sake of a happily ever after?
No, I think it is a real attempt at having mature closure, because she's falling from the building, right? And he reaches out to her, and he thinks he missed her. But Migi is making one last attempt, and he does, and he's the hero, and they look at each other, their eyes meet and all that jazz, and then, like, there's an attempt of seriousness, and I think that the reason why I say that there's an attempt for serious relationship is because Migi says, okay, I'm tired, I'm leaving you, later.
Yeah.
So it's now just human to human.
Mm-hmm. That'd be weird, like, while they're in the middle of going at it, like, this eye appears out of his hand.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's right. Hello.
But, yeah, let's see. Are there any other topics we wanted to cover before we close up shop?
I think that's it for me.
All right. I can't think of anything else, so this has been our analysis of Parasyte the Maxim, and it's your damn show, so close us out.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments or recommendations, please post them. I'm always up for any suggestions. So, again, have a good rest of the day, whatever time you're listening us to at. Have a good one.